Hello again, friends. My name is Emily. Welcome back to Hope Arts Library, and please ignore Mount Vesuvius that we have going on here. Looks like the rocky hills that I live in, let me tell you. Today, we're going to be talking about the best books that I read in the year of our Lord, 2023. So these books are actually in order of when I read them. And I read, evidently 2023 was the year of classics for me. I read a lot of classics, so this list makes me look really, really smart. And you know what? I'm just gonna let you think that. I'm just gonna let you think that I'm like a smart lady who reads a bunch of classics and just has a good time. Just don't check my Goodreads. So these are in order of when I read them. This is my little list. Isn't it so cute on this little pink card? All right, let's get started. So the first of the best books that I read in 2023 was And Then There Were None by Agatha Christie. So this is very much like a Clue style storyline where a bunch of strangers are invited to an island under different, each one is invited under like a different pretense. And when they get there, they're like, where is the host? Where is the host of this meeting that we're having, and who are all you people? Right? Please ignore the sound of the guinea pigs. That's the sound that they make when they're alive. So all go to this little house on this island where they're completely disconnected with the world, and slowly, one by one, they all start dying. And I think at first they think like it's an accident. I think it was the first book that I read a year ago, so I don't really remember, but I think at first they think that it's like an accident, and then slowly, one by one, they all start dying, and they're like, oh crap, this is not an accident. This is like, we're being picked off one by one. We can't get a hold of anybody on the mainland, and there's no boat to take us back. Like, they're all just stuck out there, and they start to go a little bit crazy. It's a spooky book for sure, but it was a very, very interesting book. Agatha Christie, she is called like the Queen of Mystery, and she truly is. The more of her books that I read, they're so like sudden twist, and I never see it coming, ever. And maybe that's just because I'm an idiot, but I know that like this one really kick-started my enjoyment of all of her books. Okay. The second of my favorites was The Murder of Roger Ackroyd, again by Agatha Christie. We'll put it over here. The Murder of Roger Ackroyd is, I think, book 4, maybe book 3 in the Hercule Poirot series, which, by the way, if you've heard me talk about Hercule Poirot, you know that he is literally my favorite of all of my fictional characters that I read about. He is so delightful. He is as smart and as clever as Sherlock Holmes, but he's like so sweet and so like compassionate and caring, and that's why I like him so much. Is he's like this older man. He's described as being like retirement age, so he's probably in like his 60s, 50s, 60s, somewhere in there. And he calls himself Papa Poirot sometimes, especially whenever there's like a 20-something-year-old woman and like she really needs somebody to talk to. He says, talk to Papa Poirot, and it's literally so stinky cute. But The Murder of Roger Ackroyd was one of the ones that, like, when I was in Barnes & Noble, I was buying, I think, book 1 in the Hercule Poirot series, and the woman checking me out actually told me that her favorite in the series was The Murder of Roger Ackroyd. And I said, okay, cool. I was excited to check it out. I didn't think really anything of it, but when I read it, it had such a crazy twist at the end. It was so enjoyable. It's your basic murder mystery where a guy is like locked in a room. It seems like nobody could have gotten in there, but he's been like, I think he was stabbed in the neck. Certainly he didn't do that to himself, but the who done it, the who of the who done it and how done it, redonkulous, insane, so good. The next one is another part of the Hercule Poirot series, book 5, which is The Big Four, which has a lot to do with, like, espionage and, like, a secret group of people who are, like big crime, like a crime syndicate almost. The Big Four, it's 4 individuals that, you know, and Poirot has to, you know, figure out who they are and how to take them down. And it's like, it's on a way bigger scale than most of his crimes are. Most of his crimes are individuals, like one person gets murdered by another person. This is a really, really big thing. So it was very interesting to see him tackle that, and it's so cute, I like it so much. I'm sorry, he is so charming to me that, like, anything he does, I'm like, oh, he's so cute, I love him so much.
Stop it. Get some help.
Sorry, I'll try to act normal. Next is The Screwtape Letters by C.S. Lewis. I've been meaning to read that book for so long. I think I started it years ago. Never finished. So I had to start it over last year. And it was so good. Okay, so the Screwtape Letters are a series of letters written by a demon named Screwtape to his nephew, who is also a demon. And he is basically instructing his nephew how to win the soul of a young man who is here in our physical world. And he tells him all these little tricks that demons, I want to say that demons use, because they do genuinely use the things that are talked about in the Screwtape Letters. Of course, it is a work of fiction, but C.S. Lewis is so gifted. How he even, like, he was so knowledgeable on this topic to even see all these little tiny tricks that demons use in order to pull souls away from God. It was so eye-opening and so, like, creeped me out a little bit. It's one of those books that you can't read all at once. At least I couldn't read it all at once, even though it's a pretty short book. It just, like, it's so heavy. It's like, oh man, I be falling for that all the time. Like, you read it and you just, oh man, it's rough. But it's a very good book. I definitely recommend it to people probably, like, I personally would recommend it to people like 16 and older, or people who have been a Christian for a while. It's a little bit rocky for someone who is so new or someone who is so young, but it is a very good book that I recommend most people to read. Next, I have lumped these two together because I talk about them all the time, but I did reread them last year, and that is, of course, Pride and Prejudice and Emma by Jane Austen. 2 incredible books. If you don't know what they're about, I will be very brief. So Emma was published in 1816. Can you believe that? 1816. And we're still raving about it in the year of our Lord, 2024. We're still all over it. So Emma is a very witty, imaginative, sort of self-centered, a little bit young lady, and she is like a matchmaker. She's always sort of getting into other people's business where she really has no business being. It's funny and it's sweet. It is a romance, of course. And what I really like about Emma is that Jane Austen wrote her and said she wanted to write a character that no one but herself could like, which is so silly funny because so many people love Emma as a character. She's very naive, very childish, but still not an idiot. She's just young and she learns a lot during the course of this book. Pride and Prejudice, if you don't know what Pride and Prejudice is about, you gotta get yourself in the game, my guy. So Pride and Prejudice, of course, is another romance. It is about a man who is very prideful and a woman who is very prejudiced against the rich, basically. And he is very rich. Oh my gosh. But he's very, like, broody and kind of a jerk at the beginning of the book. But he gets humbled, she gets humbled, they both get humbled very quick, which I choose to attribute to God. But it doesn't say that in the book. But they're both very sweet, classic romances that I highly recommend to, yeah, pretty much everybody. I mean, they're clean because they're written in the 1800s, so yeah, they're good. We are now moving on to, we're out of the classics now. Those are my favorite classics that I read last year. So we are moving on to The Merchant's Daughter by Melanie Dickerson. So The Merchant's Daughter, I think it was either book 2 or 3, maybe? I don't remember the name of the series now. I'll put it on the screen. I think it had like a weird name. Hold on, give me a second to think. I can't think of the name of the series. I'll just put it on the screen. I feel like it was named after the place that it was from, and I can't remember the name of the place. But The Merchant's Daughter is a retelling of Beauty and the Beast, I believe. And it's another one of those with, like, the Lord is very... He's a bit of a grumpus. He's a bit of a grumpy grumpus. But he has a very good heart. And she is a sweet dear, and of course, it's a romance. It's so cute, and it's so full of good spiritual content. I love Christian books that are just saturated in good Christian spiritual content. Love books like that, because sometimes a book is labeled Christian, and there's really just like, maybe the characters mention they went to church one morning, or they like mention one Bible verse or something. And then that's all the spiritual content that you get for the whole book. And I am not a huge fan of that. It's fine, but I prefer ones like this where it's like there's so much good like Christian content in the book itself. Okay. Next is one of my favorite books that I've ever read. So of course it had to make the list. It is The Painter's Daughter by Julie Klassen. I've talked about this book so many times, but just in case you're new here, I will talk about it again. Just in case, I will do you this favor and I will talk about this book again. So, this is about a young woman named Sophie Dupont, and she is the town painter's daughter. And she does her own artwork as well, but she's not really out in the front. And a young man comes to sort of work under her father and to paint the local scenery, and his name is Wesley Overtree. And they have a little romance, and he ends up leaving, right? Well, Captain Stephen Overtree, his younger brother, who is so much more responsible than him, he's in the military, and he's always cleaning up after Wesley. He's always chasing him down all over the place to send him back home and be like, hey, our parents have been looking for you, you know. And that's what he is doing. And when he gets to this town where Sophie is, he finds Sophie, who tells him that Wesley has left. And Stephen very quickly figures out, all on his own, that Sophie is pregnant with Wesley's child. So Stephen, right then and there, says, marry me. You don't have to be an outcast. You don't have to be completely cast out of society. You don't have to be a single mother with no way to care for your child. Marry me, and if I die in the military, which he believes he's going to, then you will have a widow's pension, my family will take care of you, and people will just believe that the child is mine. This is the best book ever. I'm definitely gonna reread this book this year. But I'm not gonna tell you anymore because I don't want to risk spoiling it. But I really, really, really like the writing style. I like the spiritual content. I just like it all so much. It's so good, and I really, really, really recommend it. Please read it. I need more people to talk about it with. Next, we have Dear Henry, Love Edith by Becca Kinzer. This book was all over my feed. All the clean romance girlies and all the Christian romance girlies were shoving this down my throat, and I was like, fine. I'll read it. And I loved it. I think I read it in like either 1 day or 2 days. I don't remember. But it was so funny. Like, in the first few pages, I was laughing out loud because it was so silly. But it is about this young woman named Edith and a young man named Henry. And Edith is a widow because her husband got sick very quickly and passed away. And she's like, okay, I just need to take care of people. She wants to be a missionary, and she's just trying to move forward with her life. And due to some unforeseen circumstances, she ends up becoming a very temporary roommate, sort of, housemate, to a man named Henry. But Henry does not know Edith, and Edith does not know Henry. They know each other through a mutual person. This woman knows Edith, I think, via email or something, and Henry is her uncle. And so Edith works all night, and Henry works all day. So they never see each other. They don't know anything really about each other, but they leave notes for each other. But when Edith is home, she writes a note for Henry, and when Henry is home, he writes a note in return to Edith. And based just on what they know about each other, Henry believes that Edith is just a little old lady who just needed a place to stay. And Edith believes that Henry is just a sweet little old man who is allowing her to stay in his upstairs room. Little do they know, they are the same age. And they are the attractive stranger that they keep bumping into in public. But they don't know that. It's super cute, it's super funny, it's so enjoyable. I absolutely recommend this book. It is contemporary, which, if you couldn't tell, is not always my thing, but I loved this one. Very, very good. Okay, next, I have to mention these. It is books 1 through 3 of the Blades of Actar series by Trisha Mingrink. So, I know what you're thinking. Emily, have you finished that series yet? No. No, I haven't. But I feel like I'm going too soon. I felt like I was getting like too absorbed into it and I had to stop, which I know doesn't make sense to any of you, but it would make sense to my best friend. But she's not here to defend me, so anyway, I just needed to put them in that they are definitely favorites of mine. I enjoyed reading them very, very much. I sped through the first 3. But I will be finishing that series this year. I promise I will. Okay. So the final of my favorite books that I read last year was Faking Christmas by Cindy Steele. Faking Christmas was a super funny Christmas contemporary romance. It wasn't Christian, but it was clean. And it is like I'll just give you some buzzwords about it. There's cozy cabins, there is fake dating, and of course, happy ending. I love that book so much. It's also like sort of enemies to lovers. They weren't really enemies, but she really didn't like him. It's very much like a sort of like stuck-up girl and like golden retriever excited, energetic guy. It's really nice. She's not stuck up in a bad way. She's just uptight a little bit, but I liked both the characters. I really enjoyed that book a lot. And it was a really good way to end out the year. I think I read one more book after that, but I barely remember it compared to Faking Christmas. So, does it really count? I don't think it does. Anyway, so those are my favorite books that I read in 2023. Super, super fun. 2023 was a really good reading year for me. So I'm glad that I had such a long list of favorite books. But anyway, it was so good talking to you guys again. And we will talk to you again here soon at Hobart's Library.